And switching gears now, Alina, recent hurricanes and severe weather events have wreaked havoc on the state's insurance industry, and lawmakers hope to address that this session, right?
That's right. Insurance reform is really at the top of everyone's mind going into this session. And like we told viewers last week, one Central Louisiana representative is really leading that reform.
Everybody knows we're in the midst of a crisis.
Premiums are steadily increasing as Louisianians find themselves unable to afford to protect their homes.
If we can't get a handle on this insurance crisis, then we're going to see catastrophic consequences across all sectors of the economy.
In February, the state legislature approved $45 million in funds toward the Insure Louisiana incentive program in an effort to get more home insurance companies to write policies in the state. But even during the special session, lawmakers knew that was not a permanent solution. Many suggested fortifying homes was a better route to take.
Competition is the key. To get more companies in, we've got to attract them to Louisiana. I think this Fortified Roof program is a good way to do that.
The Fortified Roof program has not yet received funds, but State Representative Gabe Furman is looking to provide relief in other ways. He has 3 insurance bills, all working to help out policyholders, 2 of which stand out. House Bill 110 applies directly to insurance companies. It would require them to offer endorsements for policies with non-fortified homes in an effort to update those homes and make them more resilient.
South Louisiana as a whole is just not an attractive place to do business right now. So we know that long term the key is building resilient structures that can withstand these hurricanes that we know are coming.
House Bill 183 would ban what's called assignment of benefits contracts, meaning policyholders' rights could not be transferred from the policyholder to a contractor working on a claim, including the right to payments and the right to sue. This idea has even gotten the endorsement of Insurance Commissioner Jim Donlin, who says this has been used by bad actors to commit insurance fraud.